Hey guys, I'm super excited about you joining in your small group of this Never Enough series. We've been looking forward to this for a long time, and I am actually joined by a group of young professionals. You'll be seeing them kind of set up around, and they're here watching this tonight as we're filming for you guys. So I appreciate you guys being here and working with us on this, and we're going to have some fun. And I tell you what, being in a group, I think is one of the most instrumental things in my own spiritual life. It's just so super important to be in a group and be challenged and be encouraged. You know, when we sit in a worship service, you know, that's really as we have our public discipleship. You know, we can do that. But it's when we get in a group, that's really starts private discipleship. That's where we can really ask questions. That's where we learn. We really get to know each other. And I think it really supercharges our growth. And so what we've tried to do with this Never Enough series is put something together that is really easy for all of us to follow. So I hope all of you inside your group will take advantage of this reading plan. And I think you'll maximize this story because 1st and 2nd Samuel, some of the best stories in the entire Bible are found in 1st and 2nd Samuel. And so one of the things about life is sometimes we feel like our family is the only family that's messed up. Have you ever felt that way about your family? I mean, I haven't, but I'm wondering if you did. Yeah, but we all do. And so there's some really dysfunctional stuff in 1st and 2nd Samuel. But as we look at all these characters from Eli, which we're going to take a look at tonight, to Samuel, to King Saul, to King David, we're going to see that they all really have one thing in common. And it's something that we all have in common. We're all looking for contentment. We're looking for satisfaction. It's just really hard to find it. And so we're going to learn from really the mistakes that are made through these key characters in 1st and 2nd Samuel that can really help us. And so I wanted to get us started with this Never Enough series with kind of a working definition of contentment. And I'm not saying it's the best definition of contentment, but it's a definition. And it's really this. It's being at peace with where your feet are. That's kind of where I want to be in my life. I just want to be at peace with where my feet are because so much of my life I've kind of wished away, wishing this would happen or that would happen or when I get this situation or that situation or this relationship or that, whatever. And we just sort of wish our life away instead of just realizing, you know what, I'm just going to be happy with where my feet are right now. And you say, well, how can we find that? Well, I think we find that when we just realize that God's sovereign. He's in control of all things. We either believe that or we don't. And so if we really believe that, we believe that where He has us right now is where He wants us to be. And I just want to rest in that. And so as we talk about contentment throughout the course of this next 4 weeks, contentment's just not going to happen in your life automatically, right? I mean, you're here tonight, which is an important thing. And so contentment needs to be cultivated. It's a fruit that needs to be cultivated. And so one of the great things about a group, and for those of you watching, for those of you who are here tonight, you know, I think inside group is we really get to know each other and love each other enough to be honest with each other. That's where some truth can really happen. It can change our life. Now, I'm an old dude, and this is kind of weird, but when obviously I can't grow hair on the top of my head. I've been bald for years. But we'll be traveling, and Amy and I, my wife, we're empty nesters now, so we're going somewhere, and all of a sudden she will pick a hair out of my ear while I'm driving, and it just like hurts like crazy. I'm like, it scares me to death, almost wreck. And she's like, but she says, you know what, that's gross. That just looks terrible. I said, well, I'm happy with any hair. I was wherever I'm good with that. And she says, no, you're not. And so she's doing that in my life. You know, she's the one who sees things in my life that nobody else sees. You know, and that's important. We got to have that. And I think that happens spiritually. And I know that was a terrible illustration, but you guys were great to hang with me. But I think inside group, we can help each other cultivate contentment because we'll see discontentment in each other's life and be able to kind of call that out because we love each other enough. And we can help each other to cultivate that. You know, one of the things that we talked about in the sermon, and I know you guys remember, right, the sermon, right? You haven't forgotten anything. One thing we talked about is there's a high cost to discontentment. You guys remember that? If you were here over the weekend and you heard that, there's a high cost to discontentment. And one of the things that's a high cost to discontentment is I miss my ministry. And what I mean by that, and as I was studying this stuck out to me the most, right? Because if I'm so concerned with money, with my job, with my career, making a living, I forget that I'm called to make disciples first and foremost, right? And so it causes me to miss my ministry because when we get so hung up with money, and we're talking in week 1 about really never having enough, and that was really the story with Hophni and Phinehas in 1 Samuel chapter 2. Man, God had a clear way to provide for them, right? It was a crystal clear way. He was going to give them their portion, but that wasn't enough. And so God has a provision for all of us, but you know, it's just most of the time it's just not enough. And so when we get so preoccupied with kind of gathering in ways, we miss out on what really God's called us to do. And we miss out on ministry. We get so preoccupied that we miss out on the most important thing. And I told the folks all weekend long that one day we're all going to be audited, right? You believe that? I mean, like if I knew like the IRS was going to audit me this year, I'd be kind of freaked out by that, number one. But I'd be trying to get everything in order, right? Find all these receipts and everything if I was going to be audited. And I hope nobody working for the IRS is watching this. I think I'm good. I want to be honest. I'm good. Totally good. But one day I'm going to stand before God, and I'm going to have to give an accounting of how I've used my gifts. Right? And so being consumed with stuff, I'm preoccupied with that, and I really miss what it means to really make disciples. So I think that's an important thing. Now, as we talked about cultivating contentment, here's a couple things that I want to kind of leave us with as we sort of kickstart our group time in this intro. Contentment has to be cultivated, but one of the things that's important, number one, is that contentment is an inner battle. What does it mean that I'm discontent? Well, there's a battle going on in my soul. And so what is the battle? It's very clear. It's a battle between myself and what I want and the kingdom of God. My kingdom versus God's kingdom. Every one of us is fighting that battle right now, right? I mean, all of us. I am, you are. And that's what Hophni and Phinehas were battling. Right? God had a clear plan for them, and they chose to do things their way. I mean, I'm intrigued by this passage because it was so specific in Scripture that the priest was supposed to take the sacrifice after it had been offered to the Lord, after it had been boiled or burned and offered to the Lord, and they just completely bypassed that. They said, no, we want ours and we want it now. We want it our way. And so they discarded the way of God. Right? And so if we're going to cultivate contentment, we're going to really grow in that. I mean, every single day, we really have to make that decision. God, I want to win this battle. I want your kingdom to trump my kingdom today. And I think that's a key in cultivating contentment. The next thing we talked about is really our affection. And this is so super important. What we love most is going to define us. I mean, here's the problem with Hophni and Phinehas, and it's a difficult thing for me to think about. Eli is raising two boys that are completely surrounded by the things of God, the people of God, the place of God, yet they don't love God. Isn't that scary? To think that there can be folks that are just growing up all around and just miss it, right? That know a lot about God, but haven't ever fallen in love with Him. You see, this is such an important thing, and this is the essence of Christianity. It's not about rules. It's really about this relationship that we truly love Him over all things. And so cultivating contentment really makes me think, where are my affections? What do I love most? And I believe this so strongly that the number one enemy for your affection is money. Right? I mean, and money, when I'm saying money, I'm talking about money, possessions, all those things. Man, that is something that we just battle with in our life. And so I think the things that we have to think about is whatever I love most in my life. And we said this in the message. It's important. People get really upset when I talk about this before. But this isn't a hard thing to know what we love most. I mean, to be real honest, my check registry tells me what I love most. My bank statement tells me what I love most. I mean, we don't want to hear that, but that's really true, isn't it? That's why Jesus said, where your treasure is there, your heart will be also. So this isn't like vague. We can find that. And so if I'm going to cultivate really contentment, I have to really think about my affection. What is it in my life that I love most? And we looked at it this weekend, but maybe you'd have some time inside your group. I think this would be a great thing inside all of our groups to think about the one person in this story that really gets it. It's Phinehas' wife. I mean, when she's told in 1 Samuel chapter 4 that, you know what, your husband's dead, your father-in-law's dead, your brother-in-law's dead, 30,000 of your friends and family members are dead. And she's going into labor, and they says, and by the way, it's a boy. She doesn't respond to any of that. The only thing she responds to is that the ark is gone, the presence of God is gone. And so she names this child Ichabod. God's presence is removed because she got it. She understood where contentment is found in the presence of God. But here's a great thing for all of us inside group to talk about. How is it in your life and my life that we draw into the presence of God? What are some things that we do that really take us into the presence of God? Because that's where it's at. But we have to encourage each other as we share maybe testimonies throughout the week of what we've done that's really taken us into the presence of God. And so I hope even tonight as you guys gather around and talk and dig in a little bit more that God's presence just falls, and we experience that. And then lastly, as we close this up and you guys can jump into your discussion time in all of your groups. If you're going to cultivate contentment, I think we have to be thankful and we have to be faithful. right? Our next door neighbors, we have a wooden fence between our house and their house, and they're super cool. And they have young children, which I don't have any children, but I have grandchildren. So they got like a killer trampoline for Christmas. And you guys remember Christmas Day was nice and warm, and so their kids are out, and they're playing on this really cool, neat trampoline. And my grandson, he's looking over, they're like, oh, I mean, we just spent a ton of money, had him just everything, and he wants the trampoline. I'm like, dude, get back in your yard, right? Look at what we've done for you. But I'm like that. Man, I don't look in my yard. I have like spiritual amnesia of all the good things that God's done in my life. Are you like that sometimes? Because I'm prone to look in your yard to see what God's doing in your yard, you know? But I think if you're going to cultivate contentment, you know, it was really cool as we studied First Samuel, and the priest was supposed to take his fork, that's kind of a manly thing, just stick it down in the pot, whatever meat comes up, it's mine, you know? It's kind of a manly thing. You know, that was God's portion. God's given us all a portion. He's given you a portion. He's given me a portion. But contentment is cultivated when I learn to be thankful and faithful with the portion that God's given me. Wouldn't that be a great thing to think about tonight? How can we just be thankful and faithful with the portion that God's given us? I think that can be some great conversation to kind of jump off and talk about some practical ways to do that. You guys were great tonight. You did a good job. I appreciate that. I hope you guys have a great time in your group tonight. I hope it's some great discussions and that God really begins to cultivate contentment in your life. Because as we think about all these things, whether it's money, whether it's power, whether it's affirmation, whether it's pleasure, it's never enough. The only thing that's enough is God's presence. And so let's think about how we can draw into that. God bless you guys.